pace is dropped on another edition of Soccer Down Here. It's a Wall Pass Wednesday, and there's a lot to Wall Pass about. Jarrett, sooner or later, I might get the order correct when it comes to figuring out what video is supposed to go first, and then second, and then third to get the sequencing right before you start.
You're going to figure it out just in time for it not to be relevant anymore, because that's the way the universe works.
Traditionally, yes. So, and I apologize for Bam and Ricky are already into one of the topics this morning. I apologize for the late notice about the show's going to be on at a normal time. The boss is out of town, so I am in charge of making sure that someone gets up early in the morning and goes out and has his morning walks and things like that, and harasses all of the kids that are heading to the school bus. So it was, yes, it's your fault, sir, as he gets some water. So, yes, it is me and Rowdy since we're in the 100 days, and so that's where we are. So, yes, the show is normal at 9:05, and we're here. John here, Jarrett there. And before we get into opening kickoff, because we don't have an SDH PM, news broke yesterday involving Miles Robinson and an incident that is alleged to have happened on the weekend up in Cobb County. And I would recommend that everyone get as many different sources of information as possible when it comes to your information in something like this. And Seth Vertelny did a great job over at Pro Soccer Wire, and he has most of the incident report that's attached to it, and local media has been doing all of their stuff. So find all of your different pieces of information, go to all of your different sources. Don't just rely on one source in all of this. Atlanta United has made their statement. It's about 2 sentences long, and they're going to reserve comment until more information is out there. So that's where we are, where Miles Robinson is concerned, and what happened apparently over the weekend, Jarrett.
Yeah, this one's gonna keep unfolding. Look, man, I grew up in Cobb County. This one's gonna keep unfolding. It's gonna be very interesting to see what else comes out of this. Mm-hmm. Because when you get through the police report and you get to it, a lot of the question then becomes, hey, what happened before the police report begins? Because the time doesn't just start on a dime.
Right.
So I will be interested to see what they say and what comes out of it and what Miles' side of the story is, because Miles hadn't really said anything other than what's in the report. So I want to see what the rest of it says, honestly.
Yeah.
And so I'm not passing judgment on him on all this until we get a better answer about this.
Yep.
And it's foolhardy to do so.
Yep. And so that's where we are. And so as information continues to evolve in this situation, we'll obviously continue to talk about it. But right now, that's where we are, where Miles Robinson is concerned. Now let's go to the opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee. Go ahead.
For what it's worth, when there's more information that's relevant to be talked about, we'll talk about it. But yeah. We're not trying to not talk about it. It's just right now you have the police report that came out. Some Miles' comments in that police report. There's just not aside from that police report, he hasn't said anything yet. So you just kind of waiting to see what he says.
Right. And that's where we are. That's where we are in this.
I want his take on this.
Yeah.
How much he will say based on what lawyers tell him to say. To be seen.
Right. Exactly. So that's where we are, where Miles' situation is. We'll keep an eye on it and continue to report as things go. Now to our opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee. KickoffCoffeeCO.com, and you can follow along for those watching on Twitch. QR code over my right shoulder. I feel like I need to expand the QR code, or at least rip the banner off of the columns here to the right of me for those of you who are watching. But Kickoff Coffee CO, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, the gram or the IG as the kids say these days. And for Kickoff Coffee, once again, thanks to all of you who have been supporting Kickoff Coffee as you have. When you go and purchase Kickoff Coffee, it's use the code SoccerDownHere15. And then what you get from that particular perspective is 15% off of your purchase. And then what they in turn do is take 10% of all of their proceeds, roll them over into youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee. kickoffcoffeeco.com. And so for the opening kickoff, Jarrett, this morning, I would like to take us to Orlando, Florida. And how do we say this? There's an eyebrow being raised out of Orlando as we get ready for the U.S. Open Cup final, which is tonight. The Sacramento Republic trying to do what the Rochester Rhinos last did and be a team not in the first division to win a U.S. Open Cup. And they're the last team. They're the first team since the Charleston Battery to appear in the last game of the U.S. Open Cup tournament. So yesterday, when we were having all kinds of fun looking at Champions League and all that kind of stuff, this news came away from our friends at the Four Letter and all over the place. This is from Jeff Carlisle at ESPN. Came out about midnight is his byline. Sacramento Republic has filed a complaint with the U.S. Soccer Federation alleging that an Orlando City staffer was spying on their training session ahead of the Open Cup final. You have the staffer's presence at Sacramento's practice. U.S. Soccer Federation is aware of the situation. Federation is, quote, looking into it, end quote, and confirmed that a USSF film crew has footage of the incident. Orlando said in a statement, quote, that the club has been made aware of the matter regarding Sacramento's training session and is cooperating with U.S. Soccer, end quote. The Orlando staffer, whose sources told ESPN was recognized by a Republic equipment manager as having a connection to Orlando manager Oscar Pareja, was asked multiple times to leave over the course of a 30 to 45-minute period. The staffer insisted he was there to meet a friend who was coaching on a nearby field. Republic staff even went so far as to park two vans in front of the individual to obscure his view of training, only to have him move to another location before finally departing. An Orlando club source to Carlisle confirmed the presence of the staffer, but said that there was, quote, no coordinated effort, end quote, to have the individual observe training and that the staffer didn't report back with any information. The incident took place at Central Winds Park, a public park in suburban Winter Springs, Florida. In a bid to achieve some privacy, the Republic had chosen not to practice at Orlando's training facility, but then had difficulty securing another place to train and was thus forced to train at the park. Even if the Orlando staffer's presence and his motivation for attending are confirmed, it's unclear what sanctions the Soccer Federation can mete out here. The Open Division Handbook doesn't strictly prohibit what transpired, but there is an adjudication and discipline panel that handles protests and discipline. And once again, Sacramento is trying to become the first non-MLS team to win since 1999 when the Rhinos beat the Colorado Rapids. I don't know, Jarrett. You know, you're trying to win something, and you get a staffer allegedly at a park, at a public park, watching Sacramento Republic practice for 30 to 45 minutes, and then the guy doesn't leave. They parked vans to get in his way. He moves, and then he finally does leave. Orlando City says that he came back, didn't have any information to report back. What do you think about this alleged version of soccer Spygate as we get ready for the U.S. Open Cup final?
Oh my God, it's all just so damn stupid. They ended up at a public park, which was weird in and of itself. Like I feel like they should have better fortune at finding an actual facility. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a place you can actually go and play versus doing this, like having to go to a public park, and then you get dudes showing up at the park, and then the whole like, well, I'm just here to meet a friend, but he never like actually leaves.
Yeah.
And then he moves when you like, okay, cool. Well, if you're just here to meet a friend, we're gonna move our stuff over, and then after we move everything over, we'll just after we move everything over, we'll just go ahead and get everything set with practice. Oh God, he moved. He's in the way again.
Was he wearing an Orlando City?
That part's not clear to me.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything that would lean one way or the other. But
yeah,
how would you be recognized?
If it is going that way, where like, hey, I'm just here to meet a friend, okay, well, we're going to park this van so you're not watching us practice. Why are you moving to watch us practice? And I get it's a public park, so it's a much trickier proposition than if, you were behind closed doors in a facility.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, like there's a thing here and a life lesson about, like, don't put yourself in unnecessarily dumb situations in life.
True.
And that kind of feels like you have decided to put yourself into an unnecessarily dumb situation, Orlando.
Yes. And
if Sacramento wins this game tonight,
oh my
God, someone's going to write a manifesto, and it will live for an American soccer lore,
as it should.
Yes, and you already have so much, like, Orlando already kind of lives in its own little meme world because it's Orlando, and not just for Atlanta's sake. Like, through their history, they have just always been like, Orlando's a step away from the Holy Grail when someone drops a piano in front of them or on them.
Or it's Wile E. Coyote chasing
after
the Roadrunner. Yeah,
it has. They have. That's a better analogy. They have eternally been Wile E. Coyote chasing after the Roadrunner, and here they are, so close. They might get across the line tonight. Like, they're going to be prohibitive favorites. They're at home. They're facing a USL team.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you want to make life more difficult for yourself? Don't play hard mode. Get on that Atari, flip the switch, and make the Pong paddles longer again. Quit playing on hard mode in life.
Juice boxes have Orlando City at a -217 over 90 minutes. Your 90-minute draw is a +307, and Sacramento Republic is a +5.25.
And Bam, it was worse back in the day. Back in the day, MLS teams would buy up the games. Like, God, man, what is it? 10 years ago, for U.S. Open Cup games, you would have MLS teams, like, if once you got the draw, if it was MLS and USL teams before the final, MLS teams could pay a fee and get to host the game so they wouldn't have to travel to a USL team to play. Like, the fact that they can't do that now, that's an improvement on where we were. I will send you via Twitter the greatest U.S. Open Cup game of all time, in mine and probably Jason's opinion.
Yes.
When Atlanta had to go to Colorado, and the game ended like I think the game ended like 10v9 or 9v8.
Yeah.
Multiple people got sent off. Somebody for Atlanta stomped a Rapids player, and this is the Silverbacks. This is back when NASL was still a functioning thing. The Atlanta Silverbacks were a second division team, and they went and beat Colorado after having like 2 or 3 guys sent off. It's the dumbest game possible, but this is an era. That's an era where even if Atlanta Silverbacks had gotten hosting rights, Colorado could have, and probably ended up doing, where they could spend money to get the rights to host instead of having to travel. So thank God we don't have that anymore, because it's great when you have to send all these MLS teams on the road to make them uncomfortable. It's great. I love it.
All right, so for the record, for those that may have forgotten the date, June 25th, 2014, Atlanta Silverbacks in the 5th round defeat Colorado by the score of 2-1. So as the game gets into the 28th minute, lightning and hail suspend the game for over 40 minutes, so each team gets to kind of regroup a little bit. Then game continues in the second half, and I'm reading the report from our friends at thecup.us and Robert Wilson. This is his report from that match in particular. So wave of shots. Here we go. Jaime Chavez stunning the home crowd with a goal. What was
Atlanta legend Jaime Chavez?
Yes.
Atlanta United legend Jaime Chavez. I think he was on this roster for a half a year.
Yep. What was
in the lead up?
Yes, what was once a heated yet free-flowing affair turned ugly in a matter of moments when Jaime Chavez pulled down Colorado center back Drew Moore in a fight for a loose ball near the center line. Like I said, this is Robert's copy that he wrote. As the Colorado defender fell to the ground, spikes from who was it? I need a first name here, sir. So let's see. Colorado defender falls to the ground. Spikes land directly on Drew Moore's head and neck, causing an uproar from the crowd. The nearest player on the field, Colorado goalkeeper Clint Irwin, rushed to the scene, and a melee was imminent. The heated argument turned to pushing and shoving, and soon both benches cleared. In a matter of seconds, 3 Atlanta players were ejected: Chavez, Quadropoku, and Borfer Carr, as well as
New York legend Quadropoku. This entire team was a who's who of like late aughts, early 2010s players. This was amazing.
As well as Colorado left back Mark Birch. The melee continued, and soon Atlanta Silverbacks technical director Eric Winalda, assistant Ricardo Montoya, Colorado Rapids head coach Pablo Mastroeni were ejected for allegedly leaving the coach's box. Atlanta left with 8 players on the field, missing Chavez, Poku, and Carr, without their first and second in-charge coaches. The near-empty Atlanta bench was left in the hands of Nick Webster, a friend of Winalda and coach in 2014 was the coach of Cal FC, who was invited to take an honorary role on the Atlanta bench earlier that day. Webster rose to the occasion, calling for the players to stay compact, believing they could see the 2-goal advantage out for the last 20 minutes, regardless of being outnumbered 10-8. Colorado was practically given possession for the remaining 26 minutes and the additional 7 minutes of added time.
It probably should have been like 11 minutes, to be honest. I've said before, I almost failed an online quiz in like a sports marketing class because I was watching this and I was just so enraptured by this stupid game. Yeah, Eric Winalda was technical director / manager for the Atlanta Silverbacks at the time. Ricardo Montoya is real low on the list of people you want to fight in life. And assistant coach there, Ricardo probably like invented words to say to the officials as he was being pushed off the field. U.S. Open Cup's amazing, but that's an era where like I think that was one of the games. Didn't mean to derail into that game. It's always a fun discussion, but I think that was the era where I think that was one of the games where the Silverbacks, lost a home game, and they were not the only team. A lot of USL and lower division teams lost home games because of the way everything was structured.
Yes. So
and the MLS teams could just straight up and buy a game.
Yeah, I mean, there were times where Atlanta would end up going to Seattle and playing at Starfire because Seattle would buy a match. That's happened in the past. And so 7 red cards, chaos, round 5, 2014 U.S. Open Cup. So Jarrett will post the link in the Twitch pitch when he finds it, because it does exist. The tape of this.
Yeah, the whole thing exists. Never mind the fact that like Atlanta was up 3-1 at some point or 2-0.
Yeah, they had a 2-goal lead. Yeah,
they were good. They actually beat RSL that year too, I think. Silverbacks had some giant killer tendencies. It was hilarious.
Yeah, they were up 2-1. They were up 2-0, 1-2-1. So yes, Bam, you have now really and truly on a Wall Pass Wednesday.
You have opened the floodgates, sir, of stupidity.
Yes,
not nearly as badly as Orlando has, but it's comparable.
Yes. So just while we're talking about this particular element, let me get into the Twitch pitch and find out what folks are saying about this particular game. Knicks, the Purple Kitties are so 3, 6, 7 O's worth of pathetic. They had to spy on the USL team they were playing, and this is in all caps. I mean, he's gone reverse E.E. Cummings here. Then you have Knicks with his maniacal laughter. I hope Orlando lose magnificently. Kev C is saying, let's go Sac Republic. Knicks, immediate forfeit. Sacktown U.S. Open Cup champs. And bam, once again, that's why the USL club should be hosting the game. MLS side's got more money, able to hire out a stadium to practice. But
that's where all this came from. They used to be able to.
Yeah.
Or you used to not be able to. Like, used to be MLS teams would just straight up and buy it up because they didn't want to travel. That's one less day of travel. And never mind the fact that I think Orlando had their game from the weekend moved.
Yeah.
To clear their schedule for this. And Sac Republic played.
Yeah, they did. And
there's going to be so much trash talk from Sac Republic. And to your point, I knew you started to say his name. Miami's going to trash talk him because Neville was mad they moved the game.
Yes. So MLS did a lot of stuff to accommodate Orlando City as they were preparing for a U.S. Open Cup final, but Sac Republic had to play, and because they're right up against it in the playoff race and trying to figure out when you could reschedule. I think it was a match against Loudoun, but yeah,
that's a tough one to reschedule.
Yeah, and so and Emilio with the question: can you really prevent someone from observing in a private park?
That's a great question. that's a great part of this conversation that needs to be had. You're playing at a public park.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it much trickier to be able to avoid everything or
Right.
to be able to, to get involved in the conversations and the discussions and, the spying. Like, it's at a public park. It's not as cut and dry as it probably should be. But I mean, I would love to know what their situation, what Sacramento situation was when they got there. Was it, hey, this is our best option? Orlando offered the stadium, but we don't want it because we were nervous, would be watching, and we wanted some privacy. He didn't get privacy anyway.
Yeah.
In that way, like people can just go like walk around the public park, do whatever. Right. So it's tough. Yeah, it's tough to do this. If it's as detailed as they're saying, like, hey, that person worked for Orlando, was here, wouldn't leave. We put a bus in the way. They moved around the bus to keep watching. It is tough to kind of piece it together, though, about like, oh yeah, they can do this, they can't do this, that sort of thing.
And I just have, was the individual wearing Orlando City gear? How was he recognized as someone that was attached to the franchise? I mean,
feel like the soccer world, like many industries, I feel like is small enough that you can run into situations like that where it is an incestuous enough community where it could have been, someone who's worked in soccer for a long time who knows everybody. And like, oh, I know that guy, he works for Orlando now.
Yeah. And, then you take the two vans or the two buses and you move them in front of practice. And this individual, I just have this vision in my head of someone who, his hand, his head's in the air, just kind of scoping around a little bit, looking at the trees, enjoying the park. And, oh, hi, there's a practice in front of me. I think I'll watch this for a little bit. You would take like 25 or 30 seconds. And then you just kind of, it's like when you're staring at somebody when you were a kid in school, like you're staring at the girl that you've got the crush on in high school. You stare at her and then she turns and looks at you because you're being stared at, and you kind of jerk your head away like you're not doing anything. You're just like, nope, that's not what.
Four cards, right? And maybe they wanted to stay in Orlando. Tormenta or Tampa would have gladly accomplished. But Tampa would have opened everything up for them to spite Orlando. Oh, you trying to beat Orlando in a cup final as an underdog team?
Absolutely.
You can come live in my house and pet my dog.
Yeah.
You can sleep in my bed, Sacramento.
We will
just come on over. We will rename Tampa in your honor today.
And yes, Michael Head, we are getting into the Thomas Tuchel stuff in just a little bit, but yeah, the notion of somebody staring at you and then jerking their head away. Nope, wasn't doing nothing. Wasn't me. No, it's all good. No, we're fine. No, I'm just kind of hanging out here waiting for somebody. There are too many things here. You do not want to give any modicum of an opening for anyone to sit there and doubt your intentions. You should have just gone and chosen another park. Yes, I know that, Emilio, you're right on about the idea of final, practicing in a public park. Can anyone not go to a public park? I mean, unless you rent the whole park, I guess the answer is no. But yeah, Orlando City allegedly got caught staring at the cute girl in class. And so that's where we are right now with Orlando City. A couple of other comments. Alex Pacine has a point. Obviously, the whole competition is tainted now. Whoever is the previous holder should continue as Open Cup champ for another year. That's just Alex.
Are you expecting me to disagree?
No.
That sounds like a logical conclusion here.
Alex Pacine, you're square on. You are bang on with your conclusion this morning. El Mataflo, Drew Moore never played again after that match in 2014, according to El Mataflo. And yeah, I know.
It was an ugly stomp.
It was.
I remember it. It was not a light thing. There's a reason multiple people were ejected. Everyone wanted to throw hands because it was a very ugly situation.
Oh yeah. Yep. So Kefsey volunteers to take them the trophy. Yeah, we still have. I guess we still have it, unless it's back at at Soccer Office Park in Chicago.
Darren probably took it with him.
It might be in Darren's office, yeah. So there may be a reasonable facsimile therein at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training facility. And if it's not there, then someone should give a ring to Newcastle and see if Darren has said trophy, considering that, to everyone's point, that perhaps it should stay here in Atlanta with Atlanta United, because the whole competition is now tainted from staring at the cute girl in class yesterday in Orlando. Four card. Why is the team playing in a final, practicing in a public park? Yeah, and Knicks comes in. Yeah, the other venue fell through. Didn't want to do it at the Orlando facility. Trust me, yes, four card. Anyone could have accommodated them, and we've gone through the list of folks who would have been like, yes, you can be more than happy to sit here and hang out, and you can do your thing. Yes, we will get into Thomas Tuchel. Modiflow wants to hear that the Orlando rep was wearing club gear. That would put the whole thing over the top if he was actually wearing something purple with a lion on it.
I hope he's wearing a tracksuit.
Yes. So, and Bam says, even before this, I do believe that 99% of football fans in the United States were hoping for Sacramento Republic to win. Accurate. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
again, Orlando has big Wile E. Coyote tendencies and energy. Even the first year they ever made the playoffs, which was in 2020, they went absolutely insane in the playoffs, had to play their first game into a penalty shootout where one of their field players was in goal in the shootout because their goalkeeper got a red card. Second yellow, I should say, for coming off his line early after he'd already gotten like a time-wasting yellow in regulation. Like it was, then their entire midfield all went certifiably insane during the game, during their second game, and was just getting red card after red card. Like I've talked about this before. There's a level of insanity that Oscar Pareja has been trying to leach out of that team that he is just, you can only do so much.
Yeah. Also on the board, Bam. Bam is anticipating what was at the park. He's hoping that the individual was wearing a tracksuit and had a 90s video camera, and Nix is wondering if it was a full tripod and production crew.
Oh, God, I hope it was like an old JVC camera, the kind that are the size of an
old 900 JVC.
Yeah. Like, that thing's the size of a small black bear.
Yes. Complete with umbilical cords and portable deck, which wasn't all that bad. Michael had Citrus Bowl's literally on the same street as Exploria. Hard to believe they couldn't practice there. It does have turf, absolutely. And Bam thinks that the crew should have been setting up for an Oscar Pareja press conference at the park, getting ready for
honestly, that would have been amazing. And I would have been eternally tickled at Orlando if they had done that. Or I would have I would have been extremely entertained by Orlando if they had the forethought to schedule a press conference like 150 yards away from practice and just have Sacramento practicing in the background.
So that's your opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. You can follow along Kickoff Coffee CO, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's a hell of an opening kickoff this morning, but understandably so.
It's a stupid situation because the U.S. Open Cup always just gives you the dumbest content.
Yes, absolutely.
Every time.
Yep.
Full stop.
So here's the QR code for our friends at Kickoff Coffee right there. So thanks to everybody who has been buying Kickoff Coffee, helping them out, coming out of the blocks. Soccer Down Here 15's your code. And they'll take 10% of their proceeds. If you take 15% off, then they take 10%, and then they reinvest it in the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee. Kickoff Coffee CO here with us every single morning for the opening kickoff. Firings. Yeah, yesterday we had Champions League.
We did.
And this morning, Tedesco got fired from RB Leipzig.
Well, they sucked. So.
Yeah. Yes. So Shakhtar Donetsk beat you in your barn 4-1, and it really didn't seem that close.
Well, I think it was 1-1 at halftime, too. Like, that was a, full Danny DeVito in the second half. Anyway, I came out blasting from Shakhtar.
Yes, and so Shakhtar Donetsk gets the win. Tedesco gets his pink slip. Let's see.
Around and find out, bud.
Yeah. So the other one that we need to talk about, Thomas Tuchel out the door. How about that for a wake up call this morning? Thomas Tuchel and
they were so bad yesterday.
I give Ricky full credit for this one. He goes Tommy 2 seasons.
Yes, Ricky, that's cool. We're friends again. Ricky and I are, so we're good.
Yeah,
it was a contentious 90 minutes and an emotional 90 minutes, but we're over it now. We're through it. Our relationship is strong enough for this.
Yep. And so Thomas Tuchel, how's this for a wake up call this morning? It's like you set your alarms, and then all of a sudden because you don't get your notifications when you're sleeping and your phone is on like sleep mode or whatever, and it only starts back up when your alarm goes off. My alarm goes off this morning, and then all of those notifications just come piling in. Tuchel gone. Okay, so let's go to the Telegraph and go to Matt Law, and the Telegraph has been very, very busy this morning. So it was his 100th game in charge. It was just under 600 days. And Telegraph Sport understands Tuchel was informed Wednesday morning. Anthony Barry likely to take temporary charge until a replacement is found, with Graham Potter, your early front runner. How about this if you're a fan of Brighton? This one, I think you were the one who posted the photo of this morning.
Oh, I did not. Someone else did the Graham Potter photo.
Yeah, the Graham Potter photo where they're taking their team.
Someone else did that
this morning. Someone in the SDH land did. But this morning at the Amex at Brighton, they're taking their team photo for this year. Graham Potter's right in the middle of it. Then I imagine shortly thereafter, Graham Potter gets a phone call. Yo, we want to talk to you. And so after the photo is taken, he literally ends up going to Chelsea for a discussion as to whether or not, hey, you want the gig or not. And apparently the two contenders right now are Graham Potter, don't do it. Mauricio Pochettino is now the second name on the list to come in and take the gig now that it is wide open. Matt Law, while the loss in Zagreb may have underlined Chelsea's recent slump under Tuchel, Telegraph understands the sacking is not based purely on the results or Chelsea's poor start. Concerns had been growing that Tuchel was not the right man to lead the new era under Boli Clearlake, and it's believed the German's future was in doubt, win, lose, or draw in Zagreb. Boli and Bedad Akbali are going to move quickly to replace. Let's see. Right time for a transition. So, of course, you come up with your 3 sentences or your 4 sentences. Sources claimed that there have been issues behind the scenes at Chelsea all summer, which Tuchel has hinted at on occasion. Tuchel made it clear he did not enjoy the extra responsibility he was given in the transfer window after Boli Clearlake handed him more power and a greater say on Chelsea's business. Reiterated his disappointment that former technical and performance advisor Petr Cech left Stamford Bridge following the takeover. Revealed on Saturday he would not be involved in the appointment of a new sporting director. Sources have also claimed Tuchel's relationship with a number of Chelsea's squad has deteriorated, while his team's selections have caused surprise and at times frustration among players who felt they've been unfairly left out or played out of position.
Well, I mean, every American fan hates him right now, so there's that.
That is true. That is true. That is absolutely true. That appeared to be evident in Zagreb, despite those problems and the below-par results and performances. Puts pressure, obviously, on Boli Clearlake, given Tuchel's support with the fan base. Just 2021 Champions League winner 4 months after he replaced Frank Lampard. Let's see. What was the other one here? So once again from Matt Law. Was this the same article? No, it's a different article. Okay. During the review of the 100 days of active ownership that Boli and Egbali had, discussing their progress in creating a new culture at Chelsea and the long-term prospects of Tuchel, who had done little to prove that he wanted to take a proactive part of it. Publicly insisted he was in it for the long haul, saying before the trip to Croatia he hoped there'd be another 100 games and another 100 coming, but privately his attitude and demeanor raised serious doubts, and that ultimately was his undoing, even more than Chelsea suffering 3 successive away defeats. And now here's Matt Law's word, or a series of turgid performances. Turgid. That's not a word. That is a word. Given greater control in the transfer market, backed with more responsibility than any coach had enjoyed. And apparently, it appeared that Tuchel was perhaps better suited to the more detached management style of the past regime. So a lot of stuff is there. It looked like Boli Clearlake wanted to be they wanted to be active in the conversations with everything and have this into this groupthink notion, and Tuchel didn't want any part of it and was still disappointed that Petr Cech was gone. So it's all over the place. And Thomas Tuchel is out of a gig in less than 600 days at Chelsea. Whew.
Okay. Like, I mean, I would ask Chelsea fans, like, was it worth it? Because you got a Champions League title out of it. Those don't just grow on trees.
No.
Not perfect, but you got a Champions League title out of it.
Yes.
That's cool.
Michael Head, what say you? So,
yeah, I think it's hilarious still that he went from PSG to Chelsea, won a title that year, which honestly is just more punishment on PSG. And now they, I guess, go for Graham Potter. Thank you for coming, Thomas.
Thank you for
see where you land next.
Bam is wondering Thomas Tuchel to Atlanta.
No, how about Thomas Tuchel to Leipzig?
Oh, there you go. That might be an interesting one.
I'd have to run that by Byrne.
Yes.
Byrne would be able to explain the machinations of like the German system around that. Like, I know Germany's weird, so I would trust him or I would trust Johannes to have that conversation.
Michael Head says, I cannot express how miserable Tuchel has looked in pressers and on the sidelines. Plus, his mix-up with Conte was ignorant. Yes, it was worth it. Champions League and Club World Cup. I will take it.
Yeah, absolutely. I that's my, as an outsider, that's how I would view it personally. Of, hey, that was worth it. Good job. But yeah, kind of sucks there, bud.
Yep. And Michael had similarities between Chelsea and Atlanta United relative to their competition. Possession leading to nothing, leaky defense, no relevant attack, no functioning striker. It's not pleasant when both of your teams are struggling. Knicks, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, Christian Pulisic is free at last.
You think so? We'll see who comes in and how they fit.
Yes.
He should be. He should be free. We'll see if he is or not. That remains to be seen. Let's not put the horse ahead of the cart.
Right. And then Nick's adds his thoughts on Leicester and Atlanta United after that. Let's see. Trying to see what else everybody was saying. A lot of folks, when we got into the discussion about Open Cup and Modaflow, speaking of giant killers, Independiente del Valle could make their second Sudamericana final tonight. We'll keep an eye on that after Dylan Butler at hopefully at 10 o'clock. But, so Michael Head, before he got into the details as a fan, he says, that went south uber fast. Dang, he did look miserable in the last month. Yes, he did. Looked absolutely miserable. And Bam, in discussing stuff, we talk about venues. Van says, you want something dumb? Football Victoria had the NPL final booked for a stadium that holds 2,000 people for two of the biggest Greek teams in the state to play. Venue changed within 24 hours. Yes, of course it did.
So wait, is this team secretly run by the Phoenix Coyotes?
Yeah, well, I mean, unless if you didn't want a venue change, you knew that you might not sell the place out, then I would say yes. But it looks like two of the biggest Greek teams in the NPL final, you want a bigger venue. That's just my thought. You want to move it away from the new venue at Arizona State. So that's what you want.
Their farm team is the Atlanta Gladiators. They're actually the Gwinnett Gladiators. Don't let geography fool you.
Correct. Yes.
This is the same thing as saying the San Francisco 49ers, even though they play in Santa Clara. The Gladiators play in a bigger building than the Coyotes will. Thanks again for sending the Thrashers to Winnipeg instead of sending the Coyotes back where they came from, like it made sense.
Dude, look, they needed a good home. They needed better ownership. And don't get me started because hockey down here at 1:30 in the morning could end up being an open rant against Atlanta Spirit for each and every episode of the show.
But yes, I am eternally tickled, man, whenever mismanagement of picking facilities is done. It's never not funny.
No.
Because it's not me making the decisions.
No, that is true. El Modaflow, no one is a fan of Brighton. That's okay. I didn't know that I know the Brighton's fan base is somewhat small on the coast relative to everybody else. Michael Head, I guess Bully doesn't think spending $5 billion for those results. And apparently, Bam says he did hear Potter has a $10 to $16 million release clause. I think Bully Clear Lake can sit there and fish between the cushions.
And he'll be fine paying that.
And find the sofa pizza and have no problem in grabbing the 10 to 16 million in that release clause. That's like, okay, you want us to cut you that check? Yeah, fine. All right. So, but that's the thing. Does Graham Potter want the challenge of Chelsea, or does he like continuing to build what he's building the way that he wants at Brighton? That's the question for me in all of this.
Man, imagine if he turned. That's a good point, because it would be hilarious if he just turned down Chelsea. He's like, no, I'm good.
And that to me, it's like, do you want to do your own thing, or do you want to have all the toys in the toy chest? Get everybody that you could sit there, play Football Manager, and do it that way. That's the question for Graham Potter. That is the question for Graham Potter right now. Do you want all the toys in the toy chest? Do you want that kind of a challenge, or do you dig what you're building and have built it to the point to where you're in European places for Brighton and Hove Albion right now? I maintain, and this is something that we've talked about, on Soccer Over There, that I still maintain, an anger at Graham Potter because he left Swansea to go to Brighton, and I understand that. I get it. I understand the why there. Doesn't mean that I'm not disappointed that the man left and had the perpetual chip on my shoulder. I respect completely what he's doing. Not that I'm not mad that he left Swansea to do it. But like I said, that's just me. Pacine, Potter's a great manager. Hate for him to go somewhere with a quick trigger. Nix, you don't turn down Chelsea. Not him. But once again, Nix, if you're comfortable doing your thing, if you have everything in we don't know what Graham Potter wants out of his coaching life. If you've got everything that you want, if you're happy being a builder, you don't want the bright lights of Chelsea. You don't want, the incredible pressure of Bowley Clear Lake thrown down upon you every single day. You're happy on the coast at Brighton, working European spaces right now. I could see folks in those situations, if it was me and if I was at a point in my career where I'd sit there and it's like, look, I'm cool. Yeah, I know you're offering me everything in the world. I just don't want the headache. I don't want the oversight. I don't want the responsibility. I'm building what I'm building the way I want to build it. And Brighton has been doing fantastic business recently. The last 3 transactions that they brought in, then they flipped those individuals for a massive profit. All you have to do is look at Mark Cucurella as an example of that. You tripled your investment in Mark Cucurella. That kind of thing. Do you want to do that? Or do you want to go to Chelsea? That's only a question Graham Potter can answer. But I'm sure that if you're talking to individuals at a certain time in their career where they're happy building what they're building, the answer may not be what you want if you're a Bowley Clear Lake. And other folks, once again, Kefsey, you're not a great manager until you've had unreasonable expectations foisted upon you by a giant. It's like Jack and the Beanstalk or something. I'm saying it's Jarrett's fault. El Mataflo. You'd have to be an idiot to stop coaching Moises Caicedo, although I have heard that folks are chasing after Moises Caicedo.
He would just bring Moises Caicedo with him to Chelsea.
Right, exactly. And
just to anger the poor kid who wants to go to Manchester so badly.
Yes. Michael Head, Potter should go and make the buck. CFC has so much talent and so much money. Go. Bam presents the example that you can answer to. It's like Ange isn't leaving Celtic anytime soon. He has a vision he wants to build.
He better not. Don't y'all dare touch him. Let him continue to do beautiful things for a while for him. Let him live in this dream.
And that's the hook here. Does Graham Potter have a vision that he wants to build at the Amex? Or does he want the big-ass challenge and go to Chelsea? A guy like Mauricio Pochettino, who right now is, obviously he's the second name on the short list. That one makes sense in the sense of, okay, he's been at a big ticket franchise. He's done PSG, he's done Spurs, all those places. He's felt that pressure. He's dealt with that kind of pressure. He's done that. He knows what he's getting into. And, is he done with being on the beach, and does he want to get back out there and coaching and that kind of thing? I could see Pochettino taking the Chelsea gig, no question. But Graham Potter, do you want to build where you're building, or do you want to go to the next step? Modiflow, seriously, Potter's the best English manager at this minute and should have been more seriously considered by United recently. Consider the franchise, Modiflow. Consider the franchise that we're talking about here. Ten Hag, great pickup. Absolutely great pickup. Love it. But with Manchester United, you've got to give the guy that you're bringing in the time to do it. Leave Erik Ten Hag alone. Let him work. Let him get in the kitchen and cook. That's the biggest thing here with all of that stuff. Let Ten Hag cook. Manchester United needs to leave him alone. They needed to leave whomever they brought in alone. Will they give him the windows to do his work? Will they give him the windows to cook in the kitchen and come up with that menu that he wants, to open the restaurant that he's looking for, to carry the analogy out that much further? That's the question if you're somebody for Manchester United. Yeah, Graham Potter, absolutely. One of the best English managers out there right now, one, if not 1A. So that's what we're staring at right now with Chelsea and Graham Potter hopping on a plane, I guess. I guess it was a plane, unless they put him on a train or a car or something. I don't know what the distance is from Stamford Bridge to Brighton, but that's what you're hunting for. Bam, if you have time, have a look into Ange as the Socceroos coach. Talk about someone who is backstabbed by the media to get Arnold in. No, I know. You're not saying get rid of Erik Ten Hag, Modiflow, but yeah. Yeah, right there with you.
I still think Ange had some growing to do when he was Socceroos coach, and credit to him for it. I'm certainly happy that Celtic backed into him, because they tried to hire Eddie Howe, and then it fell apart at the last minute. Mm-hmm. Because I guess they weren't able to make certain guarantees to Howe for his staff. So Eddie Howe ended up not taking the job. And they're like, okay, well, like option C or D is this guy coaching Yokohama. The Greek Australian guy. Let's just see what happens. He plays an aggressive style. Oh, cool. You're going to basically try and outplay Real Madrid for 45 minutes until you just the depth doesn't do it anymore.
Yes.
So yeah. I'm not mad at it. Keep bringing in half the Japanese national team.
Yesterday, just to kind of go through Champions League, and we got more matches today. Ajax and Rangers, Eintracht Frankfurt Sporting, both at 12:45. 6 matches at 3 o'clock. Atletico Madrid and Porto. Barcelona is probably going to whoop up on Victoria Pilsen. Everybody else is in that group. Barcelona's at a minus 1250. Bruges and Bayer Leverkusen. Inter and Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich's a minus 127. Napoli, Liverpool. Liverpool on the road's a minus 105. And Spurs and Marseille. Spurs are a minus 185, and Marseille on the road is a plus 500. Yesterday's results, we mentioned Tedesco getting fired after what happened, losing to Shakhtar Donetsk, who was a plus 800 yesterday. A plus 800. RB Leipzig was a minus 303 at home, lost 4-1. It was 1-1 at one point. Benfica beats Maccabi Haifa 2-0. Real Madrid beats Celtic. You were talking about that one, Jarrett, at a minus 145, 3-0.
Man, Eden Hazard just everybody, once Benzema went out, everyone was like, oh, God, now Eden Hazard's going to play up top. Oh, Eden Hazard has a goal and assist today. Damn, didn't expect that. He was really good.
Yes. Also on the board yesterday, PSG over Juve. They had a 2-0 lead. They won 2-1 at a minus 333. Milan and Salzburg was a 1-1 draw. That one was a plus 263 in the composite. Manchester City put 4 on Sevilla. Tell me if you've heard this one before, Jarrett, but Kevin De Bruyne assists to Erling Haaland.
Erling Haaland has 25 goals in 20 Premier League games or something stupid like that, or Premier League, Champions League games, something stupid like that. He has video game numbers in Champions League. And I get that some of that is, you're playing the soft part. You're playing pot 4 on your schedule.
Right.
It's not always going to be, him putting up a bunch of goals against another world famous club. Some of it you're going to be putting it up against those lower clubs. It's still hard to score goals in this game. Mm-hmm. I don't ever want that to be a thing like taking away from what Erling Haaland is doing, because it's really damn cool.
Yes, absolutely. And, so, and here, to full disclosure, I play Premier League Fantasy. I go through the league fantasy. Yeah, of course. And I already used like your main swap out where you could take as many transfers in 1 week and you can swap out as many dudes as you want. I think I swapped like 4 or 5 out. Now I've just gotten to the point where it's like, okay, I've got to have Holland on my roster. And so I went ahead and took the 8-point hit to add Haaland. And so now I have Haaland and De Bruyne. And it's like Haaland, De Bruyne, Cancelo, and you can only have like 3 guys from one team on your roster. So I did the deal, tried to find some of the cheapest defensemen who've had great starts that I could possibly find, and to add Erling Haaland, that's what I had to do. And I got rid of Gabriel Jesus to do it. So, so I went ahead and took the hit. I'm to that point. Dortmund beat FC Copenhagen in one of the other early games, 3-0 to -286. So that was what happened yesterday in Group Stage Day 1. 8 games today, Group Stage Day 2. And we'll get into all that other stuff here in hour number 2. Let's see.
I want to build it as I'm about to leave for a bit.
Yeah.
I do want to follow up with Jeff Carlisle before I hand this over to you, and hopefully Dylan Butler is able to join. As far as Sacramento's choice of training site, I'm told there weren't any other grass fields available within a 45-minute drive. This includes Disney, which owns ESPN. Carlisle saying that because he works for them, yes. Which had a Labor Day tournament going on. The area colleges were also not available.
Yeah. Okay. And before we go, this just out on Atlanta United's Twitter. Atlanta United has suspended Joseph Martinez for 1 week for conduct detrimental to the team. He will not participate in game this week. Will not be available for selection on Saturday against Toronto FC, scheduled to rejoin the team Monday, September 12. That is obviously all we know about that. And when we know more, we'll know more. So that came out just before the top of the hour, just in time for you to depart, sir.
It always, man. I get to leave at 10, and that's when things happen. It's just how life goes, man.
Yep. So, whatever. Yes. Bye. All right. So that's Jarrett. Champions League is a farmers league. Michael Head, thank you for the update. Brighton to Stamford Bridge would take about an hour via train and tube. So, so that's where we are. So time to read a promo. And since we're at the top of the hour, it's to our friends over the left-hand shoulder, for those of you watching on Twitch. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. Oh, that's right. I wanted to add music again. So let me see if I can remember how I did it with the music. Lower the music level and pick this cut. There we go. So that's your music cut that I have selected for this one. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's a Lemonize service. Deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. Lemonize has created a customized solution that lemonizes all organic odors, including those like pet, cigarettes, and food. Realtors and property managers use a Lemonize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process, makes it easy to work with, said realtors and property managers. Kind to the environment. We like that these days. A very green way of going about things without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever, if I can read my copy. Different than Febreze or our other masking agents that we have either under the sink or in the cupboard, because when you pull them out from underneath the sink or out of the cupboard, spray them in the air, they're masking agents. That's what they do. They mask the odor. They don't attack the problem all the way down to the molecule like a Lemonize does with their proven scientific formula. Pricing easy, one of two ways, either by cubic feet or parts per million. We come up with a price that is affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any other questions for Lemonize, go to the website, lemonize.com. But do us a favor here at SDH. After the .com, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from. So your full homework assignment, ELIMINIZE.com/Atlanta, lemonize.com/Atlanta. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, the Lemonize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH. Take the levels up to 22 for some strange reason, and we fade it down here to 0. So that is that's your promo read for the midpoint of the show. And so we just addressed what we saw, and that was all we saw. The official release from Atlanta United, 2 sentences that Joseph Martinez has been suspended for 1 match, and it is this upcoming match against Toronto for conduct detrimental to the team. No further information, and obviously if we have more information on that as we go, we will let you know about all of that stuff. So obviously with the big news with Thomas Tuchel being dismissed from Chelsea, 2 sackings in Champions League after results yesterday, 1 with recent results, 1 with just seeming philosophy. And it seemed to have been stuff that had accumulated over time. That's where we are. We went over the activities in Champions League today. So looking at today's matches, we will go over everything. And like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on today. So let's go into viewing habits before we get into actual juice boxes here and kind of keep an eye on what's going on. So soccer on TV today, as we know it, on BN at 1 o'clock, it is Ligue 1, Lorient and Lyon. Libertadores at 8:30 with Flamengo and Vélez Sarsfield. FS2 has Liga MX at 10, Tijuana and Guadalajara. BN Sports en Español is simulcasting the Liga and Libertadores action. Fox Deportes, Liga MX Monterrey and Cruz Azul, that is at 10 o'clock. And that was actually played last night. So that was a 3-2 crazy one last night. So that's kind of difficult for that one to be that way. To the NA Champions League, they've got Frankfurt and Sporting at 12:45, Barcelona, Victoria Pilsen at 3. Same simulcast on Unimas. B1G has college action at 8 o'clock. Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup Final is on ESPN Plus at 8 o'clock. MLS, you've got NYCFC and Cincinnati. We'll get into the midweek whip around, patent pending, trademark coming in just a little bit. College action, men's and women's on ESPN Plus. USL Championship. That is where Jason and I will be. It is Atlanta United 2 in Memphis, Tulsa, Louisville, El Paso, RGV, and Monterey Bay, Orange County at 10:30. League One, Richmond and Tormenta at 6:30 at City Stadium. Paramount Plus has all 8 of your matches in Champions League. The Brasileiro at 4. VIX has Champions League, and the other 7 on VIX Plus. And because I heard a noise, I heard a little, you hear like a little pop when someone comes into the studio. And so that's where that is. And so what that means is I get to run this. Let the intro roll all the way out. I wish there was it's okay. So you hear the lightning and the thunder and everything, and you're sitting there going, man, I wish there was a way that I could just go ahead and, hit it and bring Dylan Butler in. Okay, so Dylan, let me do a piece of business while we're talking. And so it's a slow news day. Yeah.
Yeah, no, not much going on. It's a lazy day in the soccer world.
And I guess so we've got a couple of sackings over in Champions League. And first thing I want to talk to you about is what happened in Orlando yesterday. Your initial thoughts when all of that word came across about alleged spying by Orlando City on Sacramento Republic in a public park getting ready for the U.S. Open Cup Final.
So question to make. A guilty pleasure of mine is the old Sky Sports show Dream Team that once was shown in the old days Fox Soccer Channel, right. So about a fictional club called Harchester United. We're in the Premier League, and it was all the drama you would expect, right? Like all these different things, and inside the room, the board drama, and all this match fixing, and all these fun things. I feel like this is straight out of the script of that old tape. I love so much. By the way, I'm kind of I've reintroduced myself to, thanks to the wonderful world of YouTube. But that's right out of it. Right? Like one. It's before a cup final, and you've got a team in it. The match day -1 practice is at a public park. right? Like, when does that happen? Two, suddenly an Orlando C employee maybe jogging in the park. I don't know, getting his exercise in, stop the footy. I'll say it almost feels on point that this happened in Orlando, because it just seems that whether it's weather or other things, like just crazy things seem to happen in Central Florida, right? Like I don't maybe an Alex's going to cross the field. It's just I think it's just part and parcel with MLS in Central Florida. So I guess in that sense, not surprised, but if you were not watching this match, if you were a casual, I think you're now. So just a sports fan, right? I think you've got to tune into this match.
Dylan, can you do me a favor? Your signal's kind of double clutching a little bit. Can you log out and log back in?
Yeah, I wonder if it my audio. I will do that and bounce back for you.
Cool. All right. So thank you. I didn't know if it was something that it would work its way through, or it was something we could navigate. But no, I was hearing the double clutching like you all were as well. So I was trying to see if it was something that would fix itself, or we'll see if we can reconnect and connect back in. But yeah, I want to get Dylan's thoughts on all of this. And yes, Alex, I will ask about Newcastle, and we will do all of that. We'll do all of that kind of stuff with Dylan coming up at 8:30 is Melgar and IDV. Okay, so we'll go through all of that. So here's Dylan. Take two.
Any better? You got me? Good.
There it is. All right. So we were talking about it a lot in the first hour, basically the first half hour of the show. And, you know, to me, it's like, if you're the Orlando folks, first off, was the guy wearing something or that said Orlando City on him, although he was recognized by the Sacramento.
Maybe he was wearing like a Kaká jersey.
Yeah, something like that. And it's like, I was likening it to when we were in elementary school and we're staring at the girl in class that we really like. And, you know, you're staring and you're staring and you're staring. And she realizes that you're staring at her. And then she turns and you kind of do this bit, you know, where you're like, you're kind of looking around. It's like, no, I wasn't doing nothing. And
I was thinking of the old, like, I'm a big Seinfeld guy. I was thinking more of the old episode where George gets the job and this is a PG show. So
is it?
Slept with the cleaning lady, and then he got brought into the boss's office, and he's like, "Was that not allowed? Like, I didn't. Is that we can't do that?"
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy gets recognized apparently for whatever reason, whether it was clothing or, hey, I know that guy, because the soccer community is very, very small. They move, according to Jeff Carlisle, they moved vans in front, and it's like, then the guy's just like, no, I'm just waiting for somebody. I think I'll just keep walking over here a little bit, you know, and just where maybe he could see me, you know, if I'm, you know, outside from the vans or anything like that. It's just the only thing missing was like the whistling. It's just like, oh, there's something going on in front of me. You know, I think I'll watch for a little bit. No, it's like, no, I'm not watching. I'm here.
I think every controversy these days seems to have a gate attached to it. So I think we need a gate for this too, right?
Yes. Absolutely. It's just so then, but we can't use Spygate.
No. Oh, yeah, that's taken.
That Spygate has been taken. Since you can't use Vangate because, you know, the vans weren't intimately involved in the whole process because they were just using blockers. I mean, is it a Cupgate?
That has a good ring to it.
So yeah, I mean, it has I guess Cupgate until further notice. So we'll say Cupgate. What outside of Cupgate and alleged spying and being recognized and wandering around vans and whistling in a park? When you look at this match tonight, is this real? How much of a chance does Sac Republic have in this one?
They've got a great chance because of their history or their lead up to this final, right? Like, they've knocked off 3 other MLS teams, and they've knocked off 2 of them at their home ground, right? LA Galaxy and Sporting Kansas City. So why not, right? Like, they're going to come in with absolutely no pressure on them at all. They're going to come in as I alluded to, and to your viewers, like I did that interview with Lee Desmond, and he said his mentality is just going to be, like totally relaxed. Let's just play our game. We're not going to let the occasion dictate how we play. And he's got that experience from playing in last year's Irish Cup final. So there's experienced voices in the locker room. I think they're going to be just fine. Like, I don't think it's going to be a raucous atmosphere, obviously, but it feels like you almost wonder, right? Like, if this situation, like, is this going to get off to a really like tempestuous start, right? Like, are these teams going to really go after each other right away because of this whole cupgate?
You were looking at our practice, sir. But the thing, you can't leave Luis Felipe alone. You cannot leave him unmarked.
No.
He has been for the rest of the soccer country that hasn't been watching USL Championship, Luis Felipe has done some serious damage to folks in this cup run for Sac Republic. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, right now we were looking at juice boxes, and going into tonight, the 90-minute win for Orlando City is a -217. Your 90-minute draws north of +300. And Sacramento is a +525 to win in regulation. I will take that 90-minute draw and run at a +300. I will take that and go with it. That like I said, that's just me, but I'm just waiting for that's what you get for spying on us. And it's like it turns into Rocky 2 or something. It's like they'll fight right-handed, and then like with 10 minutes to go, they switch back to what the guy saw allegedly in the park, and then they go in and win or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, like it was already fascinating to me, at least, like we're inside soccer, right? Like, so just the whole lower division team, Orlando never having won a championship. So like those were the storylines that excited us. and then this happened now, like I said, to bring in the casual sports fan who, on a Wednesday in early September is like, what am I doing? I have my fantasy draft coming up. Oh, cool. Let's watch this to see if there's any crazy fireworks there. So,
but it's also on ESPN Plus. It's not on the family.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame. I wish it was on the network, but
since this is a Wall Pass Wednesday, and we kind of let anything go on the table, there is some news that happened before the top of the hour that before we go, I want to get your thoughts on as we preview the weekend involving Joseph Martinez. Alex Pacine. Alex Pacine wants me to ask you about in the collective, both Alex's and yours, your Newcastle United. How do you feel about the team this year?
By the way, this is like you harken back to school days. This is like the passing notes in class. He wants me to ask you if you can, and then I pass it along back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have Newcastle fans here on the show, and they wanted to have communal experience with you and ask what you've seen out of Eddie Howe the first couple of times.
Yeah, I like it. The results have been there. There were certainly those tricky fixtures with City and Liverpool in the early goings, and then had zero expectation when they played Man City. Suddenly they're winning in that game early, and you start to think can you actually get 3 points from Manchester City? They didn't, but it's been a positive start. A little bit disappointing on the weekend. Got absolutely screwed by VAR.
Yeah.
The goal that was not awarded was absolutely a push against Palace, but goes to show you that those refereeing decisions aren't unique to MLS. So, and by the way, then they put out a thing. They said, "Oh, we're gonna check. We're gonna take a closer look at that goal."
Yeah.
On 2 days later. Great, good. Thank you. Do we get those 2 points that were lost then?
Do you get that back?
That's so great that you were able to look at it. But super positive start. Was and Eddie Howe's already talking about the January window. I thought when the takeover happened that maybe there'd be a little bit more spending than they've done. But can't complain about the way that they've started. It's been a very positive one.
All right, so let's get back into the weekend that was before we get into. Actually, we've got a game tonight. NYC and FC Cincinnati going up against U.S. Open Cup final.
I'm on the call. I'm on the radio call, actually.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's Glenn Crooks. Yep.
You and Crooksy. All right, cool. So then let's go for the preview of this one. What in
front of an audience of clearly nobody, because everyone's going to be watching the Open Cup. Listen to the call for us, and then just have the Open Cup match on TV. That's all.
A multimedia experience is what you were calling for this evening.
Correct.
What in the wide world of sports has happened to NYCFC?
Yeah, we spoke about it last week.
It's still happening.
But here's the funny thing, right? If you take a deeper dive into the loss in New England, right? And you even hear it from both of the coaches, Arena and Cushing, and then you even hear it from Pat Noonan. The consensus is that actually NYCFC was the better team, right? They played better. They had better chances. Georgi Petrovic was out of his mind. So the chance creation was very good for NYCFC, not very good for New England, but the defensive deficiencies is what's killing NYCFC, right? You can create 8-10 chances, really, really good chances, and say we're unlucky, but then against the ball, if you're not doing your work, you concede bad goals. And really, you could look at all three of the goals conceded. The first was John Bell taps it in 3-on-7, right? There are 3 New England guys in the box and 7 NYCFC players around him. That just can't be conceded. The Tommy McNamara goal was another one too, where it was a slow roller across the box. How does not one NYCFC player go and get to it before apparently the speedster that is Tommy McNamara does, right? So it's moments like that they're being punished for. So, but that's the thing that we love about our sport too, right? It's judged in different ways. The fans and obviously the bosses as well talk about the results business, right? And the managers kind of look at it more in terms of how we played and what it looked like. And, you could bring in all those stat nerd factors as well. And it's all true, but it's also true that the results haven't been there. So it's 6 out of 7 games lost, which hasn't happened since their expansion season. Mm-hmm. If they weren't as good as they were early in the season, they might be falling out of playoff contention like these other big teams have been, right? So in that sense, this is a massive game for them at Citi Field, where they've had success before and where FC Cincinnati has never played, right? So you have that aspect of it, where they walk in just sort of, their first time on the field is going to be when they get to the stadium, right? And they walk around and they look around the pitch, and Cincinnati's also never beaten NYCFC, and they'll be without Lucho Acosta to yellow card suspension. So you factor all those things in, and you would say, and I don't know what you can tell me what the odds makers say, but you would say NYCFC has a pretty good chance, I think, of getting something out of this match, but they're not trending that way, right? So that's what kind of makes it an interesting one.
Juice boxes have NYCFC at a -137. Your draw is almost a +300. Cincinnati is almost a +350 right now. So you are right in there as your anticipated favorite. So last week, before we get into the rest of the weekend that will be, Dallas scored like 3 goals in 7 minutes at Minnesota. It's like you leave the room, it's goalless. You come back, it's 3-0.
Yeah.
Philadelphia over Red Bulls 2-0. Philadelphia just continues to do Philadelphia things. Nashville, Hani Mukhtar chose offense again, knocking off Austin 3-0 at Geodis. You've got the Canadian Classique, which was crazy.
Always delivers. I love the Canadian Classique. It's one of my favorite derbies that is in the beer sponsored rivalry week type of situation.
Yes. There you go. But yeah, it was 2-0, then it was 3-2, then it was 4-2 and 4-3. Absolutely crazy. Let me check some real quick on the over-unders on that one. So if you had over-under at 6.5, it was a plus 13.56. So you would have made a dime or two with that total for the Canadian Classique. Also on Sunday, where they had a lot of games, Revs beat NYC 3-0, which got into what we were discussing. Oh, the Panenka with Chicharito. Yeah.
Oh, the Panenka.
Uh-huh. So
so here's the beauty of the Panenka.
Uh-huh.
When you score it, you're like, oh my God, he did the Panenka. Like, it's incredible, right? But when you don't, it's a bad look. It's a bad, and then when you do that with a chance to win a match and you need to get 3 points, you're chasing a playoff spot. Not a good look for Chicharito.
No, and this piece of audio is a great help for those of us who spend time in the booth. Oh, well, of course. So, of course, I have my volume down. I tossed to it and nothing happened. So hang on just a second. Let me see if I can get it right. This time as I hit the
Patrick. ¡Chicharo! ¡Oh, no lo puedo creer! ¡No lo puedo creer! ¡Qué demonios! Pide perdón a los Panenka en un partido 2x2. ¡Hijo de...
That's one of the best pieces of play-by-play that has happened in quite some time. And the thing is now the Galaxy are further out of chasing the playoffs because of that. The 2 points that they could have had would have put them at 41, which would have put them 3 points out of 5th. Now they're at 39. They're 3 points away from RSL in Portland. So they've got some work to do. And although they do have matches in hand over the folks above them, it would have gone a long way in just doing your thing. So also after that one, LAFC goalless at the half beats RSL 2-0. Quakes win.
And Vela doesn't convert a PK on the same night in the same city.
Man,
it wasn't a Panenka though.
No, it was not. It was not a PK night in Lipstick City for action on the weekend. So matches on the weekend. Since I know we've only got you for another handful of minutes. Let's see. Friday night football. You've got Crew going to Stade Saputo. Then a very, very busy Saturday, 3, 6, 9, 12, 13 games. Let's see. Nashville hosting the Galaxy at 3:30. Red Bulls and Revs. Atlanta United, Toronto FC. Union hosting Orlando City. I mean, there's a lot of in-betweens here when it comes to the games on the weekend. MLS After Dark on Saturday night gives you Portland and Minnesota. So it looks like you've got a lot of favorites that should be taking care of business on the road on your Saturday.
Yeah. I think a few other really interesting ones for me is Seattle, Austin, right? Seattle just keeping their playoff hopes alive thanks to the magical Nuhu.
Yes.
Dallas
LAFC. Major League Soccer, Nuhu. That's your Google search.
Dallas LAFC, I think, is an interesting one as well for me. And yeah, like you said, it ends with Portland, Minnesota. Like it's funny. Like I would almost say it's the same with virtually all of these teams. Like you think that they have it figured out, and then they lay an egg. Like we thought we had Minnesota figured out. Like they were making a run, and And as you mentioned, right, Dallas scores those 3 goals in quick succession. So still trying to figure things out. We are seeing more of that separation though, right? Like in the East and the West, where we're kind of fairly confident in teams that aren't getting above the line. The teams battling at the line are less, but I mean, we're straight in the stretch. I would have got like 4 weeks now. It's crazy.
I know.
In the regular season. So a lot of drama, on the field drama out, not the off the field, although the off the field is coming up here as well, clearly as well.
Yeah. And so before you go, news came out at the top of the hour. Joseph Martinez for Atlanta United has been suspended for a game for conduct detrimental to the team, expected to rejoin team activities September 12. Will miss the match against Toronto FC on Saturday. And this is from The Athletic, the article with a bit of a breakdown. Stems from an altercation between Martinez and Atlanta United head coach Gonzalo Pineda that took place after the 2-1 loss to Portland on Sunday. Sources familiar with the situation said that Martinez walked into the visitors' locker room after the match and in frustration knocked over a catering table. At the time, Pineda was inside a room reserved for coaches, but following the commotion, Pineda stepped into the players' locker room, confronted Martinez. According to several sources, Martinez and Pineda had to be physically separated, with one source adding, quote, "It went downhill from there," end quote. So another part of the saga with another part involving Atlanta United this year, not in a good way.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't seem like again, from the way outside here, coming from New York, it doesn't feel like those two are on the same page, right? Or it does seem like they're at loggerheads. Certainly, we had the whole situation earlier where Joseph was very vocal. Then he doesn't start the next match. Are they a better team without him starting? He's not the same Joseph as he's been. He clearly wears his emotions on his sleeve. He's not happy with what he sees. Pineda still has that streak in him as well, right? That fiery streak. So, it's super interesting. And I think it's one also to follow going forward, right? Like, who survives this, right? Like, we heard Joseph say he's got a year left on his contract. Does Pineda come through too? So I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting one.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on right now, and then obviously the news with Miles Robinson that happened as well, and we talked about that at the very, very beginning of the show. Not a whole lot of information out there. There have been some outlets like Pro Soccer Wire that have published the arrest report, and that's basically about it. Atlanta United came out with a statement about what happened with Miles over the weekend. So there's more that we don't know where Miles is concerned than we do where Miles is concerned. And so it's just something else that we addressed at the beginning of the show. And I know that folks are kind of drifting in and out where our coverage is concerned, but I just wanted to add that to what we've been discussing this morning as well. So it's been a very busy morning where Atlanta United's concerned, Dylan. For
sure, has, and we haven't even talked about the sacking here in Houston, which
true. Right.
Like, that's such a mess. Like, I don't. We can we don't really have the time to go super in depth in it, but what I will say is, I didn't like the hire to begin with, right? I know that's going to sound like a Monday morning quarterback.
Right.
I didn't think you upgraded from Tab Ramos. Like, I was a Tab Ramos fan. I understood certainly why that move was made, but I don't think you got better in that situation by going Nagamura.
Right.
That said, a really bad look for Houston, right? Like, you don't even give the guy a year,
right?
With the new GM, with new players in, and I feel like if you're trying to get candidates for that job, I think the warning signs are there, right? Like, do you really want to go there if you're a manager with, I don't know if it's the ownership or, like, I assume, right? Like, because they're the ones who make a move like this. Like, that's a bad look for Houston, right? Like, where we've seen so many turns and so many, 2.0, 4.0, 12.0, whatever we're at now with Houston. Bad look, I think, for them making the move as early as they did. Yeah, and I know that a lot of times when you have a new owner and a new front office, they want to do things in their way. And they, Ted Siegel brought in Ache, you brought in Ferreira. You have obviously this anticipation level kind of going to what we were talking about this morning with Thomas Tuchel and Tommy Two Seasons, as one of our listeners nicknamed him this morning. I like that.
With Boley Clearlake, there's an expectation of, hey, this is how we want to do things. You need to be a part of this process. Tuchel was like not really into it, and then it just got to a point to where it was untenable in the Chelsea relationship. But I think that where Nagamura is concerned, I'm with you. I would, and you've only had 5 matches left in the season anyway. What is there that's a part of this that it's like, why don't you go ahead and see the season out with Nagamura and then have discussions and figure out, okay, how do we address this and work our way forward early next season? And then if the problems are still there, then perhaps go in a continuous direction. What you were thinking this week, do that early next year. But, new owners and new front offices, they have this vision in their mind, and it just has not worked across the board in Houston so far.
I think if anything, it proves my initial point that he wasn't the right guy to hire to begin with, right? But like I said, that said, like to make the move when he did, like doesn't really, to me, show confidence even to the next guy coming in that who's to say that's not going to happen to them. So.
Yeah, why would I want to go to this place if I'm seeing what they're doing in their current environment? It doesn't make it all that a desirable destination.
No, not at all.
So what's going on with Dylan Butler other than calling the match tonight, and how do we actually promote that? And then what else is going on with you?
Yeah, so I'll be joining Glenn Crooks on the call. We've got our Facebook Live at 7 o'clock and pregame at 7:45. Opening kick is 8:08 tonight. Red Bull, NYCFC, FC Cincinnati. So that should be a fun one. On Monday, I had a really cool story. If you like dogs and you like soccer, which we all do, OSDBSports.com. I profiled it's Murphy Ham is the name of the dog. Okay. Tracy Ham is the head coach of UC Davis's women's soccer team.
Okay.
And Murphy Ham, to my dog, who is on a coaching staff as an emotional wellness support staff. And it's such a cool story for me because she said that Murphy has aided players to return back from injury quicker, provided mental health help as well to players. We all know the struggles that there are in that, especially for college students, right? Student athletes, Division I student athletes. So Murphy's there, man, for all of them. It's like such a cool story, just telling that a little bit. And only one time did Murphy's on the sideline, right? He's a super chill, cool dog. He's a pit mix rescue.
Okay.
Only once though, Tracy said, she had words with an official, she got into it a little bit. And she said she sensed Murphy like right next to her. And the referee, because he was a local referee, knew Murphy. Everyone knows Murphy in those parts, and said, "Whoa, Murph, it's okay, it's okay." And that actually, calmed down the situation, right? Like she might have been facing a yellow, and everybody sort of laughed about that. So it was it's a pretty cool story. Check it out on OSDBSports.com.
Well done. Have a fantastic call tonight, and I know that you will be having a multi-screen experience, keeping an eye on Open Cup as well as you and Crooksy are doing NYCFC and Cincinnati. Thanks for hanging out with us again. We'll catch up with you next week. Save the voice. Take the throat coat tea with you. We'll catch up with you next week.
Cheers.
There you go. See, now that's the way to sign off. You take your cup of coffee and it's all good. So once again, Dylan Butler on Dylan_Butler when it comes to the Twitters, and great to have him every single week here on SDH talking about everything going on in the world of soccer. Obviously, a lot of you have been discussing what we talked about at the top of the hour with Joseph Martinez, and it's great that you guys are having the conversations and the back and forth that you are when it comes to the decision once again from Atlanta United. Joseph Martinez has been announced a 1-week suspension, according to a team statement, suspended for conduct detrimental to the team, expected to rejoin team activities September 12. Will miss Atlanta United's match against Toronto FC on Saturday. So, obviously a lot of you are talking about that and the impact and what you feel about that. And like I said, that's what the Twitch pitch is for. And it's great that you guys are having those interactions that you are. We'll circle back to it a little bit before we go, but let's get into the day in and of itself. We talked about viewing habits and all over the place. So we got action going on, obviously, right now in Europe. You got Youth League. You have stuff going on Eastern Europe and in the Middle East coming up starting at the top of the hour. And in Champions League at 2:45, once again, 12:45, sorry. 12:45 Champions League, Ajax a -213 with Rangers coming to town. Eintracht Frankfurt a +102 now with Sporting coming to town. Your draw and your pick for Sporting pretty much within the same window, 265 to 275. Ligue 1, you've got Lyon on the road as a big favorite, -130 heading to Lorient. That one is at 1 o'clock. You've got friendlies, you have Eastern Europe, you've got FA Cup in the lowest of the low divisions working their way up the ladder. Your numbers for Champions League, it is Liverpool at a -105 heading to Napoli. Napoli's a +282. The draw is about the same. Bayer Leverkusen's a +104. And at Club Bruges, Bruges is a +243. Your draw is a +295. Bayern Munich a -127 at Inter. Inter is a +308. And the draw option is a +330. And rejoining us now, Jarrett Smith, as we were getting into all of the action and activities for the day of soccer overseas as we're going through. And obviously we did mention quickly the news about Joseph Martinez and talked to Dylan about it a little bit. Welcome back to the show in the second hour. Yep. Yeah. And so, it's been very busy.
One normal week. That's all I want. One normal week.
Yeah, and so you've got Joseph Martinez not going to be involved in team activities until the 12th, which means it's on the other side of the Toronto match, which is, for all intents and purposes, I think it's an elimination game for one, if not both, because if 1 point does neither team any good, and you've got to be chasing points in this match on the weekend if you have any modicum of a chance to chase after that 7 spot with 4 or 5 back.
I like Toronto's chances, even if it's a draw going forward, because their offense has been functional in games.
Except
if
on the road.
Atlanta pulls out 3 points here, which would be something, Toronto would be, between a rock and a hard place.
Mm-hmm.
But they have shown you in the last month that they can pull out results when they have to.
Right.
So I'm not as worried about Toronto.
Yep. But, obviously over the last 40 minutes, the conversation on the Twitch pitch has been a lot about Joseph and folks, Ricky's saying just need to get to the end of the season, all these kinds of things. And, when you have something like this where one of your bigger names is suspended for conduct detrimental, it is going to be a mental test for this club heading into this playoff 6-pointer, for lack of a better word. I mean, it's going to test them mentally heading into this game, and a game that they need to win.
Yeah, you're not mathematically eliminated,
So you're still in the conversation. So you still have to approach it as such, and the players will approach it as such. But man, this season has been, and I don't know any other way to call it other than just utterly exhausting.
Yeah. Mentally, physically, emotionally, yes, true. On all accounts.
I cannot imagine the level of exhaustion mentally that these players are feeling now.
Yeah.
Because it seems like it is just, if it's not one thing, it's another, and it's just a constant barrage of just hellfire, just constantly. And now you have to put this, which according to the article was a full-on dust-up in the locker room after the Portland game. Now you have to put that on the back burner mentally, and you have to compartmentalize for a Toronto game because, yeah, your playoff picture is all but closed. But you still, we talked about this yesterday, you still have guys playing for pride, and you have guys playing for jobs next year. And you've got to compartmentalize stuff like this so that you can go out and do your job and make a point that you need to be part of the project here going forward, or that someone else needs to bring you in to be their part of their project next year.
Right.
These players still have to eat and put food on the table, so they have to compartmentalize all this circus.
Yeah. One point that was asked by Clayton Poss, he says, I think my biggest question is, what does suspending him do? And, Clayton, I think that when you look at a situation, and not just this one, but in any situation where you have this, you have this kind of a moment inside of a sports franchise, I think that you have to come forward and basically say that this is not okay. You can't have, you have to show levels of professionalism here, and you can't flip over a table, understanding, you're on the road, you're frustrated. I understand that. But
flipping the table is the thing that got you to this point. I think it was according to the having to be physically separated.
Yep,
is what did it, and it probably was. In the way I read it is, it's been tense already with him not starting. Right. That he didn't want to take part in trainings. Had kind of isolated himself. And then getting into, a situation where you have to be physically separated. Straw that broke the camel's back seemed like the right analogy for this situation.
Yeah.
Not every situation is going to be identical. Just get to the end. Just get to the end of the season at this point.
Yeah, but you cannot have apparent dust-ups and the look that you're challenging authority. You can't have that in a locker room.
No, it's got to be you got to be. Everyone has to have consequences for actions. It can't just be, well, this guy, is exempt from those, and that creates an even worse look, and could possibly make a locker room in even worse shape. Yeah. If you get the impression that, well, so and so got into a physical altercation with management, but you're just kind of going to let it ride.
Yeah.
It can create a lot of anxiety and a lot of tension, and it can make things worse. And so you're dealing with the aspects of, how does that impact the locker room if you get that wrong,
right, versus
the PR mess that is coming from this. Because then you have to decide, what is the higher priority? What's more detrimental? Yeah. Is it going to be locker room? Is it going to be having to deal with the media fallout of it? And you got to go out there, and you have, like I said, you have to compartmentalize this if you're the team and go out there and play, because Toronto will drop 5 goals on you if you let them.
Correct.
So does Atlanta stop them? I don't know. They've had issues on defense, and their offense hasn't clicked. So I don't know if they stop them.
Yeah.
I don't know if Joseph would have mattered in stopping them. But it's a hell of a thing to have to deal with right now.
Right.
That's for sure.
And I mean, you go back to 2017 with Joseph and the match against Red Bulls. And so you have that frustration. Christian Dyer's article, so Christian Dyer's article references time going back to Joseph and the relationship of the team all the way back to Tata Martino back in 2017. So I mean, it has happened. It has happened in the past, and you cannot have a moment like you had in Portland this time around either. You can't, and that's why you have to have the notice from the team that we got about 45 minutes ago, where Joseph Martinez is concerned. Jason Nix still blames Nashville's field for all of this, and in caps he says, "To hell with Nashville."
I mean, look, that if you want a fulcrum point for really a lot of things, this organization, that night is a lot of it, and then COVID is a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you go into you come off of 2019 where it was contentious at times, but you are, Toronto outperforming their numbers in your building, and Joseph PK save away from hosting your second straight MLS Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph blows his knee in Nashville. COVID happens, and it just kind of everything kind of snowballs from there for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
If you want a flashpoint where you want to get in the time, if you want to get in the DeLorean and go back to find a point to where you might want to make things different, that'd probably be a good place to start.
Yeah.
Because he's never been the same player since then, and this, the issues with surgeries have sucked. You don't wish that on anybody.
Nope.
Because not only is there physical recovery, there's mental recovery, and it's exhausting and it sucks. And I'm sure that in itself is kind of isolating.
Yep.
But yeah, you want a flashpoint. For me, that's the one to go back to, because, that kind of triggers a lot of stuff that it ain't good, Bob.
No,
but it's, I don't know. You got it. They have to go out and play now. And, whether or not, and Uncle, I think I see your thing about, about the stay positive thing. I mean, I guess my thing is, like, I expect them to say it, because they have to, do the hashtag and put on a brave face, keep calm, carry on kind of thing. Like, you have to power through it. You have to compartmentalize it and finish out the season. I'm sure that this was a blow up of frustration that all of them felt.
Yeah.
That everyone for different reasons feels it, and everyone deals with that stress in different ways. I was more of the kind of go into the locker room, and after our locker room was tied to our dugout. I was more of the go in there and throw my helmet across the locker room out of sight if I could.
Yeah.
Did not handle things well personally. Other people handle it in a much more in a much less destructive way.
Yeah.
But it's gonna suck. And the last few games are gonna be a grind. And this thing is going to be last few games probably gonna be rough with this, but we'll see how they fight. We're still. I want to see if guys will fight like we've seen Andrew Gutman fight.
Yeah,
because you want something positive out of it for whatever reason. Man, Andrew Gutman has busted his ass every time out. Like I said, guys are going to keep doing that, because even if they're not part of this project going forward, they got to be looking out for number one.
Yeah,
and that involves making.
They want to be a part of some project going forward.
Yes.
If it is in Atlanta in whatever form 2023 takes, then that's there. If it's not a part of what's going on here locally, then they're going to be they want to be a part of somebody's plans somewhere here or someplace else. And so you want to show that your last handful of games here, you're going to give 100%, so you can show your worth to someone.
Yeah, you have to show your value to somebody.
Yeah.
So we'll see how they do that. I will be very interested with how they perform, not just Wednesday, but the rest of the year.
Yep. Abby reminds us about Saturday. The Saturday game is Childhood Cancer. Faction did their first TIFO start to finish. Look for yellow ribbons to be handed out to wear as well. Very, very cool stuff there. Looking, and Amelia, this is the point that I've made about Toronto in the past. Toronto's record on the road is a bit overrated. Everyone So everyone but us can pull out a road win. DC, Chicago, Houston, and Charlotte have more road victories than us. But yeah, Toronto on the road is a far different team than they are at home, putting up the overs. And I mentioned to Dylan, I said that the over under at 6.5 was a plus 1,600 for the Canadian Classique, and so you would have been fun getting the over on a 7-goal game like that. Let's see. Obviously, there's a lot of folks who are commenting on everything back and forth over the last 45 minutes, and once again, thanks to everyone who is having conversations, not only with Jarrett and myself, but everyone else in the Twitch pit, sharing your opinions about what's been going on a very, very, a very exhausting morning, basically, with a lot of stuff that's going on. And, so right now we've got Wednesday, you've got Thursday and Friday before a big Saturday in Major League Soccer. And so getting this news in the midweek gives Atlanta United the opportunity to take Thursday and Friday and get ready for a game that is this important, and to have all of this news happen in the last 18 hours that it has. It's going to be a test for them, and so we'll see what happens with Atlanta United going forward with their match and their preps and all those kinds of things when it comes to chasing the remainder of the season and what they look like on the field and what they look like as a group. And so it's definitely going to be a test for them going forward. Jarrett, before you came back in, I was going through the schedule really quickly. In addition to Liga MX and Major League Soccer with the one match tonight, NYC and FC Cincinnati, Dylan Butler will be on the call for that one with Glenn Crooks, by the way. So you've got Copa Sudamericana with Melgar and IDV, Copa Libertadores, Flamengo and Vélez Sarsfield. Both of those are at 8:30. You've got 4 matches in USL Championship. You've got Liga MX with 3 matches going at 10 and 10:05. And tonight also, Jarrett, you've got the Twos hosting Memphis 901 at the Fraction starting at 7:30.
It's always a reunion game when they get involved. A lot of Atlanta United Academy guys. I'm going to make this point, too, because I've seen a lot of this discussion over the last week about the academy. Just because guys don't stick on the first team doesn't mean your academy is not successful. If you got guys coming out of your academy, they're able to go play professionally somewhere, and you've got a number of guys who have come through Atlanta United too who are at Memphis playing. You got guys making that move. That's awesome, because you're giving guys an opportunity to go play professionally somewhere. It doesn't have to be, you want it to be here on a first team and guys who are making huge impacts, that sort of thing. Of course, that's what you want. Yeah. Not everybody is that guy. We talked about this with like college recruiting. Like, not every 5-star turns into a staple on your roster.
Yeah. And you'll have the 2-star that turns into that world beater at the same time.
David Green.
Yeah. David Green, JJ Watt, all those guys. You'll have those 2-stars that will surprise you and will turn into 5-stars by the time they're done. Not every 5-star is going to be a 5-star by the time that they hit a college campus, because things will be markedly different for them. And when it comes to them trying to figure out their next step in their careers. So college recruiting is definitely a good analogy to that. I think that's a show. We've gone, a lot of information. It's been a very busy day. We got Champions League, a lot of stuff involving Atlanta United. Once again, thanks for everybody who's hanging out with us. We will do it again tomorrow. It's a power hour tomorrow. And because of the commitments that I have for high school football. So we'll go over everything that happened today. Tomorrow we'll go over Open Cup. We'll go over a bunch of other things. But remember, tomorrow is a power hour only before 8:45 on Friday morning. And we'll do the weekend whip around, because it'll be a very, very busy Friday and Saturday with a boatload of matches, including Atlanta United and Toronto FC. So, Jarrett, since you are here at the tail end of the show, go ahead and send us home.
Mucho plazio.
What he said. So that means since it's the end of the show, I get to do this.